Alex, thanks for joining us today, a part of the Double Triple community. And have it's been awesome getting to know you over the past couple of weeks and sort of helping you with the tech landscape side of things. For the folks listening, would love to always start off with who you are and sort of your background of where you started in your career, and we'll go from there, and then we'll walk the team and the people listening around through the journey, how you went from sort of like a technician or electrician, and then into high ticket sales, and then now smashing it as an account executive that you're about to kick off. So, Alex, I'll hand it over to you to do a bit of background.
No, I appreciate it, Kayla. So, yeah, a bit of background on me. I started off as an electrician straight out of school. Always knew I didn't want to do that forever, but it was kind of just something to fall back on as a trade while I was playing footy. So, yeah, start off with that. Started building a business while I was an electrician. Did quite well with that, and that's how I got introduced into sales through the business side of things. And that was back in 2024 is when I started looking into sales, and that was more so high ticket. So
Mhm.
I started off, I reached out to some random guy on TikTok selling marketing to mortgage brokers, and then did that for a few months, did really well. Jumped into a setter role at a fitness coaching company, Australian-based fitness coaching company, and did really well there, enjoyed it. And this was like, I was more so just doing this after work, get home at 4:30 or whatever, start working there and commission only. And then I got into a closing role at that fitness coaching company in about August 2024. And then at the end of 2024, I was like, you know what, I'm going to go full time into high ticket. I was like, I was doing well enough part time to be like, I'm going to make the jump, but it was also a bit scary because it was commission only. So I'm like, if I don't,
Totally.
I don't make money. But I thought, stuff it, I'll do it anyway. January had my worst month. I was like,
Wow.
yeah, do I just quit and go back to being a Sparky, or what do I do? So I was stressing a bit, and I someone reached out to me asking if I wanted to join it's a US coaching company, fitness coaching company. Um, Again, commission only, but I was like, maybe a fresh start, something might help. And yeah, joined that and crushed it. I was top 3 out of 85 reps within 3 weeks. 3 months later, became a team captain, led a team of 4 people. And then, and then I actually came across one of your videos back then about talking about tech sales. And this was in September 2025.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yep.
maybe I'll look into tech sales. Like that sounds pretty cool. And you got a base, there's a bit of security, but then like in a way I liked the commission only because it drove you to do, if you don't do anything, you don't make money. But I also wanted something different, and B2B, you can learn a lot more and there's a lot more growth and stuff. So yeah, I jumped into tech sales back then and had a bit of I guess you could call it a rocky start. Over those few months, I joined in October. It was okay. Like yeah, it was okay, but yeah, things weren't exactly as they were made out to be. So
Yeah.
there was a few things that happened internally there, and then I reached out to you one day actually, and
Mhm.
was like, "Hey, like, you know, um, I'm finishing up on my tech sales job. Like, do you know anyone that's that's hiring?" Or and then yeah, that's how our journey started from there. Uh,
Totally. Yeah, Alex, there's so many rabbit holes like I want to go into this whole journey because it's just like it's such a good story. In terms of like, let me fire some questions at with you to draw
yeah,
it back. So you started like you were obviously doing as an electrician, but you started your e-commerce brand, right? So like
yeah.
what you obviously got out of school, was an electrician. What sparked your interest of even doing e-commerce?
Yeah, so I always wanted to do something with business. And then I came across someone on Instagram that was sort of teaching e-commerce, and that back in 2020, 2021 is when it really kind of took off and it started taking
Mhm.
off. So I was like, okay, maybe now's the time to jump in. and COVID as well. So actually, it started off drop shipping, and then
Mhm,
I was doing drop shipping, and I wasn't a big fan of drop shipping just because you're sending people products from you don't know what they look like or anything. So yeah, I saw this guy on Instagram and decided to jump on board with them and have him as my mentor, and he taught me how to the whole branding, the marketing, running Facebook ads, customer experience. There's a lot that goes into that.
mhm.
So I started branding my own products from there, and that was just
That's
because
awesome.
of COVID.
No, that's great. And then obviously during that period, you would have started to learn, sales and things like that. When did you recognize or feel that sales as a vehicle was something that you were interested in?
Yeah. So funny story actually. My mentor ended up bringing him on as a coach to coach the other students coming through the program, and he brought a sales guy on eventually, and I was like, she is making some good money. Where's this come from? So that's when I started looking into sales, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh, maybe that's something I could do as well. Because at that point, I had all my products in a 3PL, so I wasn't actually fulfilling. It got to a point where I wasn't doing all the fulfillment, and I was just on the laptop. So I had time to look into other things as well. So yeah, that's what
Mhm.
kind of drew me into that.
Yeah, and like sales is like you're definitely not in primary school or high school, I think, like going, I'm gonna do sales when I'm older, right? Like it's just
Yeah.
like you don't go there. And then I think you start to learn, well, one, you find out, you definitely hear other people like making money, but you definitely like my journey too, you definitely understand that you're competitive or you're like high agency or you don't need hand holding. And then almost like the skills that sales requires is like a lot of those characteristics that almost like make you understand why you could be good at sales as well. So
Yeah.
sounds like a very
Yeah.
similar experience. When you basically then from I guess then and then you got into like the high ticket sales offer, what made you a top rep, do you think, during that period?
I I think I have a feeling it was just like being productive. I've noticed, especially in high ticket sales, like a lot of people join it thinking you don't have to do anything. You can just wait for a call to come in, and there you go. So that's one part, like actually making the most of the time that you have, um, and being productive with that. But also, I did some sales training. I At that time it was seventh level back then, but that sales training I feel like really helped me have a basic understanding of what sales is, and not just you're not just selling a product, you're selling on the person's pain points, their problems that they have, where they want to be compared to where they are now, that sort of thing. So that gave me a really good understanding there. And yeah, the second most important thing is just actually doing stuff with your time and not just sitting around waiting for stuff to come to you.
Yeah, and it's like we'll get into obviously like commission only versus like getting into B2B with more of the packages side of things in a moment. But it's regardless of to your point, right? When you get on and it's commission only and basically like the output you get is like closing them and then you get paid, but it's like all the stuff that go around it to make sure that when you get on the call, like you have done the preparation, you've done the follow-ups and everything like that, and almost like you kind of don't get paid for that, but it's like part of the territory to like close the deal and then obviously make the commission as well.
100%. Like we had leaderboards on like how many dials you had to do per day, and I think at that time, especially in January, in February when I joined the US company, like I was doing probably 400 dials a day, and that was like outbound closing. So we had a power dialer to help with that,
Mhm,
but and then so there was a bunch of us at the top of the leaderboard, and the correlation was those people were just doing more work. Like it
mhm.
was compared to the rest of the leaderboard. So yeah, that's why I say I think productivity is probably one of the most important things.
Totally, yeah. Just sales is you it's like the like Alex Hormozy even talks about like intelligence being how, if someone coaches you something and then you learn and improve from that, like that is intelligence because like you can consistently improve. Or how long does it take you to like to learn that? Could take people like 10 times if they're telling you something to improve, but you're just not doing it. Whereas I feel like in sales, it's like it's all a numbers game And so if you can like honestly, even every call that you have, because I'm sure some days you might have had like 8 calls that you were like back to back closing. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's like hard because you're in such a fast paced role to like make those improvements. And if you can just like constantly reflect on each call to be able to get better is like truly how you make more and more money in the industry.
100%. And that applies to everything like outside of just like, so it's like going for a job interview. Like you go for the
Mhm.
first job interview and then get feedback from you guys. And if you don't apply that feedback or anything, you're not going to learn. Or if you don't go
Yeah.
review, oh, what did I do wrong? And that's why it's good
Mhm.
having you guys, because you can always refer back and be like, this is what happened, and then get feedback on that, and then you can make those changes. But if you don't make the changes, nothing happens. So
Totally. No, that's great. Awesome. So I'm gonna pivot here a little bit. We'll keep progressing. So it's awesome that you had the high ticket sales experience. I think a lot of people coming from that field excel very well in B2B tech because it's ultimately anyone that's done commission only. I just like hands off to you all. I haven't been in that situation before, but it just takes another whole character or Chris, like, yeah, just so much resiliency in the role. But for you mentioned it earlier, but for the folks listening as well. So yes, we did sort of get in contact. It was like in 2025. Obviously, I wasn't doing double, triple what I was
yeah,
officially doing. So it was more like just helping folks that reached out and sort of like, the guidance. And I'm obviously a big fan of everyone getting into tech. But you reached out, but then really just went on your own and found a role as
Mhm.
a sales development representative, had a bit of a faulty start. And then we'll jump into like then actually working with you and how we landed that account executive role because you actually had 3 offers on the table in like a 24-hour period, which was really exciting. And so can you tell us about the difference of going from commission only to even like a base in B2B tech sales and how that affects like your performance maybe or even stability in your life?
Yeah. So yeah, back then, like that conversation was more like, okay, how did you get into tech sales? I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to look for.
Mhm.
But didn't really have you to bounce off either when back then. So
Yeah.
that helps now. But yeah, so I think having the base compared to being, it takes a bit of the stress out of it with
Mhm.
commission only. And one big thing that I liked about having a base, especially in tech sales, is because I want to invest in property. I want to go down that route, which I know you're huge on as well. So that really helps. I actually went to a mortgage broker when I was at the other company, the commission only, and they said you're going to have to work for at least 18 months or so, have consistent income to then be able to go get a loan. There's little ways around that, but generally that's what you have to do. And I'm like, well, you know, I'd probably prefer to have something that as a base, it's going to make it easier if I want to refinance, if I want to go get a new house or things like that. So, yeah, that was probably one of the biggest things in terms of having a base versus not having a base, I think.
Totally, yeah. It's like having the commission only. There's upsides to there's pros and cons to both. Like I'm not going to sit here and say like tech sales is like the only way, but certainly in terms of building like financial wealth, like early on, you do need to show the banks like if you want to invest in property. And I think even different for other people that are listening from like Europe and US. Like I know Australia is very geared to like owning property, and there's lots of incentives around that. So it does make sense for us to go and invest in those. But you need to show the banks that you've got consistent income. And if you're also playing like I'm sort of doing the strategy of pulling out the equity, but you also need to show the banks that you're making money to be able to pull out the equity as well, right?
Yeah,
So it's a double-edged sword there. Now, when you basically you're on your own, you found your first tech role, right? Now, I think like obviously why people come to us as well. Like there's people can jump into tech, but they just tech is like the most broadest term and there's so many subcategories of the industry. And also it's actually really hard to if you're really new and fresh to it to evaluate which companies are right, which ones
yeah,
are like the hot ones to get into and everything. So we'll get into like how we built out that strategy for you, Alex. But like why like, what was your because I haven't actually really asked you, like, what was the experience of just by yourself going in to try and find a tech company to work for?
Well, yeah, I never really knew what to look for, and that was
Mhm,
like, um, yeah, there's I never realized how many different parts to tech there was, and so I just kind of went in thinking that everything was kind of the same,
mhm,
and so I ended up going through a recruiting company
mhm,
and did a couple interviews, and I just went off of what they were saying. Like, I just thought I'd listen to them, and they were a great help. Like they
mhm.
were a great help. But yeah, looking back and knowing what I know now after speaking to you girls and having that help, I probably could have saved 6 months. But I mean, yeah, I don't want to look at it like that. Like I've wasted 6 months because it's a learning curve, but I could have.
And what we've just landed you, I think, like, it's
Oh,
worked out, but it's like,
yeah,
it's, yeah, you wanna, like, you also don't wanna be job hopping, and it's as you would experience, like, it is a lot of energy learning a new product, a new system, like, and so it's like a mental toll, and anything in sales, though you have the base and usually there's like a ramping period, the longer you're in the company, the more money you're gonna make because it's like the
mhm,
pipeline you're generating, and, like, starting again is exhausting as well.
yeah,
You did touch on a really key point there. And I think obviously people will come across double, triple, and like what we're speaking about. Like, we are not a recruitment firm because I think recruiting firms, like, they're awesome, right? Like, they have the relationships with the vendors, but they get paid by the vendor. So they're working for the vendor, right? They almost, not that they don't care where you go or anything, but they have the incentive to get a bum on seat to get paid for the vendor. Whereas we're very much here to, like, never push you into a role and give you the skills and consult you in like what's actually the best tech company to go for actually your long-term career. Like, not just that first year, but like 5 years so you can make 500K, $1 million, right? So that's sort of the approach we take. When
but
I guess, oh, you go,
I want
Alex.
to touch on that as well because that's what really helped this time around. I could send in different companies. You guys would send in ideas and companies to go for and to apply for, and then it made that process a lot easier knowing that okay, I can you're not doing it for that company, so I know that
Mhm.
you're looking out for us, which I found really super helpful. That helped quite a lot knowing that okay, I'm going for the right company.
No, I appreciate that. And I'm so excited to get into some of the, we won't mention any names or logos here, but like some really cool stuff happened with you in the interview phases, that I think is really helpful for other people trying to get a role that I'm sure they'll take lessons from as well. When I guess we then started to work together, right? We basically were starting at, like, you started as a sales development representative role. We knew sort of the income that you're wanting to make. But I think the big driver for you, and how I talk to a few people, it's almost like some people want money, culture, lifestyle, or it's like, for me, I like lifestyle, money, culture. And so, like, though there's the tech industry, then there's like cyber, AI, cloud, and there's about 50 subcategories in each one of all these. And there are niches in the industries. There's also like other factors we need to help clients come to, of like, maybe the pay's a little bit less, but the product's really hot and the manager's got like great credibility. So you're going to be able to learn from them a lot. So these are all things like we evaluated with you when we were going through interview stages as well. Um, One thing too, we'll get into the tactics around you having 3 job offers at one stage at this point. However, I think something tactically that I remember when you called me one day and you said, I've actually got a job offer um, with a company, but we didn't end up getting this final one. We actually, we'll get to the later details, but you got this job offer on Friday, but you really wanted this other company because you liked the tech better. And, little things, you were like, how should I go about this? And I was like, we'll call the manager and say, like, you actually want this tech company more. Is there any way that you can help accelerate the process? And like, that person ended up getting you like 4 interviews, I think it was like 7 or something
Yeah,
crazy,
seven.
in one day. And it's like, I think you were like, can I do that? And it's like, as much as they're interviewing you, like, you are interviewing them, and like, you got
Mm.
to make it really clear, and go out and show high agency that you want to work for the company as well.
Yeah, one thing you touched on there as well, and I think that really helped me get more job offers is the fact that I'm also interviewing them. And I think they really appreciate you actually asking them questions, even if they are like tough questions for them, tough questions, so to say.
Mhm.
I think that actually helped me get some of those jobs because you're in sales, right? So like you're going to be asking questions.
Yeah.
Hey.
Like what we were saying, like it's always at the end of the interview saying like, is there any reason why you wouldn't hire me? And also like it's like the classic always be closing. Like if you can't even sell to them or close them in like each little interview phase, like how do they believe that you're going to be great in that role? And strongly like hands down why you got the account executive role out of the
Oh,
gates really is
yeah.
by doing this the whole interview.
Yeah, and I was really stuck on that Friday when I got the job because I was like, I do really want this other one. And then he's like, all right, let's do it, let's move you forward. And then I think it was
Yeah.
the Tuesday I went in and it was like 7 back-to-back interviews for like 8 hours. All up, it was like 8 hours. And by
Yeah.
the end of it, I was like, I got no voice. So, uh,
It's crazy.
but yeah, so that
Yeah.
was I learned a lot through that though, so that was good. But uh,
Yeah, and that's what
I wouldn't.
I was just say, like, where we wanna get to in sales, right? Like, you can't rely on one deal to make your quota, and the
Mm,
strongest power you can be in, which you were in, is that because we almost want all our clients to have like 2 or 3 offers on the table, right? Because then you can go back, negotiate with them as well. And if you do such a good job from interview 1 to interview 7, they're gonna go and fight for you as well. So I
yeah.
really felt like you did that, at that last stage, which we'll jump into, how you even went for an SDR role and they came back to you and actually offered you a even more senior role, in that
Mm,
as well. Um,
yeah.
yeah, anything you wanna touch on before I jump into the next thing there?
No, we'll jump into that. We'll jump into
Yeah.
that.
Um, I
Exciting time.
guess yeah, I know. We're leaving it hanging for the everyone listening. In terms of, what I guess, like, what were your learnings through the interview stages? Like, you went obviously, you interviewed with a few companies. What can you give the audience some advice on in terms of that process?
Yeah. The main piece of advice, like always ask questions. Not only just at the end, but you could also throughout the interview. But yeah, especially if you're working with Kayla and Gabe, always make the most of it because you can get the amount of feedback that you can get and the type of feedback you get is going to make a difference, like on whether you get a job, how many offers you get, you know, whether you're getting into the right place as well. Like that, I wouldn't have got the AE job if it wasn't for you guys. I wouldn't have even thought of going for it, especially with those having the interviews that I had before and knowing what questions to ask and being able to send you a message and be like, okay, well, this is a company. What sort of questions should I ask? And it'd just be like a list of questions that would be good. And I think that really helped. So yeah, just ask questions, interview them just as much as they're interviewing you, and yeah, be confident.
Yeah, totally. And like, what I think what I've actually seen, a little bit is a lot of people are interviewing and then they interview well and then they get the job offer, right? Um, However, they haven't asked themselves enough questions during the interview process that once they've got the job offer, they almost have all these unknowns and questions that they want to ask, but it's almost like it's too late to be asking those questions. And
Yeah,
when you get the job offer, you want to feel really confident in the decision that you're making, not have all of these unknowns. And I think just little things like even how to reps hit quota so that you feel confident going into day one of the job as well.
100%. Like the difference in my first couple interviews with companies, compared to the last few interviews that I had, was like night and day because yeah, I didn't really know what questions to ask, and then over
Mhm.
time, getting feedback and applying feedback, like nothing
Yeah.
happens if you don't apply it. Um, then yeah, it was just completely different, and yeah, yeah, I think
No,
I don't
it's
think
awesome.
I'd be where I am without it, like having this job. So
Yeah, totally. How's 'cause obviously, like, you had a little flavor. Like, I am so pumped for the next evolution because, like, and just yeah, no tech company is created equal. Like the company that you started in just to get started with, it's can almost like taint the experience of getting into tech. And similar thing with any industry. If you land a role that is not the best experience, sometimes people can think it's not for them. I'm so glad that like you knew, because I remember you called me, you're like, no, I definitely want to get and stay in tech. It's just like had a bit of a false start. I guess though, what are some of the learnings? Because you mentioned it at the start. B2B tech sales is such a great place to learn. Even your experience in your first role for 6 months, what are some of the takeaways that you feel like have been really eye-opening to you versus even being in like high ticket sales or e-commerce, etc.?
Yeah. So, that's a good question. I would say being it's a very good question. The biggest differences is like doing more research and being more prepared on the businesses themselves. Like in high ticket, you can't really do research on that person, right? So
Hmm.
when I first came into B2B, it was like, just pick up the phone and call as many people as I could. I was doing like $150 a day on HubSpot, trying to just call everyone and anything.
Yeah.
And over time, I kind of realized I was like, okay, well, and that's kind of what we were told to do at that company. So,
Hmm.
but over a couple months, I was like, okay, we need to refine that a little bit more, have more of a process to how we're going about those calls, um, doing a bit more research, being more prepared, having a bit more knowledge around like the problems in that industry as well, because everything's going to be different. Um,
Totally.
so yeah, I think over time, I kind of learned that there needs to be a bit more process than high ticket, and I prefer that. I kind of prefer. At first, I was like, I don't know, but then over time, I was like, it's so much better because you feel like there's a lot more purpose behind it as well.
Hmm. Yeah, it's a much more logical sell than like an emotional sell.
Mm,
Like I feel like obviously with high ticket, like you're selling to one person as well, and it's like it there's so much like emotion behind them making the decision as well. Whereas like when you're selling B2B tech, you're selling to a really large organization, and it's just like as
mm,
long as you if they spend 1 million, are they getting 10 million back? And obviously like there's a whole thing of like even when can they close and influencing like 5 to 10 people to get a deal done. But it's much more like methodical, logical, and slower to get a deal done as well, but a
yeah,
lot more research. To your point, like you can't, if you end up do just calling someone, like who's the person you're talking to, how does the tech even help them solve the problem, and like what problem does that person even have? There's just a lot more depth behind the conversation as well.
yeah. It's like who's the one actually feeling the problem in this company, and then there's so many. This might be five different people that are feeling five different problems for the same product can solve, and it's like, okay, who do you go at? There's a lot more thought and process behind that,
Mhm.
which I enjoy because it's like it's more satisfying when you actually like, okay, we did this, we got this across the line.
Totally. I do actually remember you too. Your experience in the first company too has been, it was very phone heavy. Whereas like
Yeah,
I also talked to like a lot of the leads I used to book were through LinkedIn. And I think what is quite cool, of course, you have metrics that like you almost got to hit per day in terms of maybe like a call volume. It's pretty standard. However, in most tech companies, like as long as you're hitting your meetings and you're hitting quota, they are like most tech companies are very they don't mind how you do it, whether it's email, like doing the sequences, like texting, calling, emailing, like there's so many ways that you can book a meeting. And so I'm excited for you to also even experience that in your current role as well.
yeah. I definitely want to implement more of the like I definitely started in the last couple months at that role, but I want to implement that
Mhm.
more multi-channel outreach. Um,
Yeah, for
so
sure. Multi-threading, like even I just remember little things where like even I would email them, but then message them on LinkedIn, just being like, um, I sent an email, but like there's a face to a name, like, do you mind responding or something like that.
mhm,
However, what I'm also pumped about is when you do get into these larger companies, right, they do have the funding and they have the right tools in place as well. So it's like even in this world of like AI and just like how much what they say, like I think it's like 7 to 30 times they need to see the logo or touch points to even book a meeting. That you
mhm.
do need, or like you mentioned a call dialer before, but like platforms like Gong and Outreach and like things that you can even do sequencing to make it really effective and automated for you as well, right? To be productive, which is important to have inside of a company to have the velocity and book meetings.
Yeah, and that's what I really like about the company that I'm joining. They're
Mhm,
very, very AI heavy. They're like all in on it. So they have a lot of those tools available. So I'm
mhm,
keen to learn a lot more about them. And I'm doing some research now, and you guys have been doing a lot of the AI stuff. So it's
mhm.
good.
That's awesome. So, all right, let's get into basically we can you had a few interviews, but if we jump now into you had 3 offers technically on the table,
Yeah.
within like 24 hours. Tell us a little bit about how that went and like how you made your decision. I know that's a bit of a broad question, so you can take that
Mm.
however you want. I know the in depths of it, but you share what you feel comfortable with as well.
Yeah. So I had one from a company. I went for an SDR role. And that's all I was kind of going for at the time. And then I kind of got the confidence to go for something I didn't feel qualified for. I was like, you know what, stuff it. I've done a few interviews now. We had some feedback. I know what I can do. And then I was also interviewing. I went for an AE role with another company as well, and there was another SDR role with another company. So I got one. One of them came through as with an offer. I think it was a Wednesday or something, and um, they called me and said, "Hey, look, like I know you went for the SDR role, but we'd like to offer you a senior BDM role, a strategic BDM role." I
Mhm.
was like, "Wow, that's that's pretty
And because
cool
that
to
was
be
like
offered."
closing some it was like a hybrid. You were like
Yeah,
you're getting meetings, but then you're also like closing some of the deals as well.
yeah. So it was like strategic. So it was over 10,000 employees helping set meetings for the strategic AEs, but also closing the smaller deals inside of those companies yourself. So yeah, like you said, hybrid role. We're working with some people that used to work at Apple and stuff, which was pretty cool. And then I really I did love that company and that role, but I wanted the full time AA role instead because
Totally.
the one at 180K OTE as well. So that was
So it's
I
like
was like
tripled what you were on basically,
literally like
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I reached out to them after you told me the last time with the first offer I had, to just call the other company and say, look, I've got another offer. So I called them, and he's like, okay, we'll get you in for another interview. We'll do this, and then he sped that interview process up, got me in that afternoon, and I got the job offer the next morning, and I was actually the first person to get. They weren't sending offers out till the week after, but because I had the offer on the table, they sent me that offer through. So I had two offers, and then
So
I had
good.
one come through from the SDR role, and I was like, well, shit, I've got too many options now.
I
And
know.
I
I
ended up
know.
actually negotiating another, not a whole lot, but I got another 5 grand on top of the base as the
Yeah.
A role. So I was pretty happy with that. But yeah,
No, that's
and
awesome. It's so good. And like it was incredible to see that whole process. I think one thing that stood out too that helped us made the decision right is like you did a bit of groundwork and whether it was some mates and stuff like Alex, like you also went and found out like AEs were hitting their quota and that because like it is cool to say that you're in a package and everything, and about 40% of account executives in the industry do hit their quota or overachieve. So of course, there's always years or quarters that you don't hit it, but it was like strong, compelling metrics that we had seen and proven that reps were also hitting quota in their company as well.
yeah, and that was probably one of the most important questions, especially after the rocky start that I had in tech. Probably one of the most important questions that I got from you guys to ask, because they can say OTE is this much, but if no one's hitting it, then it doesn't really matter, right? So there was I went and did the research, found out there were quite a few people hitting quota, some people that I actually knew there that I didn't know worked there,
Mhm.
um, and then I spoke to them about it as well, and they gave me the percentages, the numbers on everything, so it gave me a lot of confidence in it too.
No, that's awesome. When you now that you know a little, because like obviously I would love to hear just even being a part of like the double triple community and stuff. And you mentioned too, like you had no idea like really like what tech is or like what the industry entailed. And to be
Mm.
honest, like you continue learning that. It's not like it just overnight you fully grasp what's happening. But
Mm.
almost like I feel like us as Australians too, it's like you almost hear of like Google, Microsoft, etc. And then you just like you start to get into the world and it's just like every tech company has the most craziest name. And I guess like how have you experienced like even the past couple of weeks, just even learning a little bit more about the industry, what your experience has been like there?
Yeah, well, there's so many different like subcategories or subsectors or whatever you'd call it. And I might have to learn that of tech, like the AI, the construction, the
Yeah.
finance. There's so many different parts of it, and um, yeah, I think it's interesting, kind of getting to learn the whole aspect of it and getting more of an understanding of it. And I can tell there's so much more to
Mhm.
learn. Um, but that's why I think it was helpful being able to come to you guys and be like, okay, what what's the best way to go? Like even with the offers that I had, I was like, I don't know, I don't like, I don't know what way to go. Yeah, I'd go after the money,
Mhm.
uh, and it was actually good. That's 4 days at home as well, which is actually quite good. Um,
Yep.
but I still was like, okay, what's probably the best decision now for long term as well? Because I didn't want to just make a short term decision. So I think it was good having someone to bounce off and ask those questions too.
Yeah, totally. No, like I loved working with you because though it was like there was urgency around getting a role, but there was also like you definitely took a long-term approach of like what's the best actual logo to go learn in as well. And I felt like we definitely made the right decision in it. Like the other company that you also had an offer for, like their brand is super strong.
Yeah.
But I feel like this to go as an account executive is going to set you up for the long term as well within the company that you've chosen. And I think for the team, you start very soon, and there's going to have to be a part two to Alex's story. I
Yeah.
think after 6 to 12 months as well. So and for the folks listening, like there's almost two tracks, double, triple offer. It's like the one, like the first one is more so helping and consulting people into the tech space and, just teaching them like the fundamentals of even like prospecting, outbounding, the sales methodologies. And then the second track is obviously people already in tech and they want to close now larger deals. And that's where me and Gabe have obviously had the experience and expertise in as well. So we
Mm.
are excited to continue working with you, Alex. Any final words from yourself before we round this out?
Yeah. I want to say as well, like the thing I love about Double Triple and you and Gabe is you're not sitting around waiting and the only time we chat or the only time we talk about a job or a role is when I message. You guys are always sending stuff in, asking questions, where you're at, how's it going. There's always that communication there. So I think that's super helpful and it makes you feel like a part of the community as well. The community itself, the calls every Thursday, they were a massive help. Seeing Ryan, making that much money, it's good to see it. Like you're actually
Yeah,
speaking to someone that's done it, that's making crazy money. You girls are making crazy money as well, and it's just, I think, being around those type of people. It changes your mindset as well and your outlook on things.
no, totally. It's like you need to be surrounded by the folks already doing it. And, I just couldn't comprehend like when I first met someone that made 600K, it just like was unbelievable to me. But then you get in the around the arena where everyone else is doing it, and it just like almost it just shifts your mindset already that that's normal, whether
Mm.
that's normal or not normal. But it should be a belief that you can do it
100%.
as
Yeah.
well. And it's
And
like
someone
I think
come in
you
and just landed a roll over 300K. So
Yeah, I know.
that's
Yeah, thanks for shout. Yeah, like we had a client come from medical sales and just was earning like 200K a year, and then we just got a 360K package as well. So it's like
Mm.
I think your experience too, Alex, it's like it is so fundamental to like smash the interview process because you really don't know. It's obviously timing too, like the tech company wanting you and when you can start as well. But if you do tick all those boxes, it's a what an incredible industry to get into without really any previous experience or even to like have taken years to even get to that point of earning that potential.
100%. I would not have been doing this as a Sparky, I can tell you that much. Unless I went into the mines. I don't think I would have did.
Yeah. Nah, we love our remote lifestyle,
Yeah.
work with
4 days from
uh,
home, I'm happy with that.
yeah, same here. Well, Alex, thanks so much for your time. Like, you're so awesome to work with. It's great having you a part of the community, and all the best with your next career chapter.
No, I appreciate it, Kayla. I'm glad I'm part of it.